Hello, drama lovers, welcome back to my channel today. Tensions explode across Genoa City when Phyllis Summers takes a dangerous gamble by luring Matt Clark into a private office confrontation, determined to force the truth out of him once and for all. At the same time, Patty's emotional world is turned upside down as she makes a shocking romantic decision involving Jack Abbott, one that leaves friends and family stunned, confused, and deeply worried about the emotional consequences ahead. The drama begins with Phyllis becoming more desperate than ever. After weeks of chaos involving the mysterious hooded figure, Diane's disappearance, the hospital attack, and Nick's terrifying trap, Phyllis feels convinced the truth is slipping away again. Every clue seems to lead back toward Matt Clark somehow, even after his capture and emotional breakdown. But now Phyllis believes Matt knows far more than anyone realizes. Sharon's memories, Patty's disturbing recollections, and the horrifying photographs showing the hooded figure near Matt all point toward one terrifying conclusion. Matt may not have been acting alone during the nightmare that consumed Genoa City. And Phyllis wants answers immediately. Despite repeated warnings from Nick, Chance, and even Jack, Phyllis decides waiting for law enforcement is no longer enough. In her mind, every delay gives the hooded figure more time to erase evidence and silence witnesses. So she devises a risky plan. Using indirect contacts and emotional manipulation, Phyllis secretly sends word to Matt that she possesses information capable of exposing the mysterious figure controlling everything behind the scenes. She carefully crafts the message to make Matt believe she wants to help him rather than destroy him. Her goal is simple: get Matt alone. At first, even Phyllis herself recognizes how dangerous the idea sounds. Matt's emotional instability has already triggered multiple terrifying events across Genoa City. Yet the more she thinks about it, the more convinced she becomes that Matt is frightened, cornered, and possibly desperate enough to talk. Meanwhile, Nick grows increasingly concerned about Phyllis's behavior again. Although their relationship remains emotionally strained, Nick notices Phyllis becoming secretive and intensely focused. After nearly dying inside the abandoned building trap, Nick fears anyone chasing the truth too aggressively may become the hooded figure's next target. But Phyllis refuses slowing down. Late one evening, she prepares an isolated office space for the meeting carefully. She chooses a rarely used corporate office connected indirectly to one of her business contacts, private enough to avoid attention, but accessible enough for Matt to reach secretly. As the hour approaches, Phyllis begins questioning herself emotionally. Part of her fears she is making a catastrophic mistake. Another part believes this may be her only chance to finally uncover what really happened behind Matt's psychological collapse and Diane's disappearance. Then Matt arrives. The atmosphere instantly becomes tense and unsettling. Matt appears exhausted, paranoid, and emotionally unstable. His eyes dart constantly toward windows and doors, as though expecting someone dangerous to burst into the room at any moment. Phyllis immediately notices one disturbing detail. Matt looks terrified, not angry, not manipulative, terrified. The realization rattles her. At first, Matt refuses speaking openly. He accuses Phyllis of setting him up and repeatedly demands proof she truly knows something about the hooded figure. But Phyllis pushes carefully, insisting she understands someone else may have been controlling or threatening him for a long time. That statement changes Matt's entire demeanor. For the first time, genuine panic flashes across his face. Matt immediately demands to know who else Phyllis told. His voice shakes as he warns her she has no idea what she is involving herself in. According to Matt, certain truths are not survivable. The chilling phrase sends fear through Phyllis instantly. Still, she refuses backing down. Phyllis presses harder, demanding answers about Diane, the hooded figure, and the threatening messages targeting everyone connected to the investigation. Matt finally begins unraveling emotionally. In fragmented, panic statements, He admits someone manipulated him long before Sharon's captivity and the hospital attack ever happened. He describes being watched constantly, threatened repeatedly, and emotionally broken down until fear controlled every decision he made. Phyllis listens in stunned silence. For weeks, she suspected Matt was part victim and part perpetrator. Now, hearing the terror in his voice directly, she realizes the truth may be even darker than she imagined. But before Matt can reveal the hooded figure's identity, everything suddenly goes wrong. The office lights flicker violently. Matt freezes instantly. Pure terror floods his face. Then his phone buzzes with a single incoming message. Matt looks at the screen and goes completely pale. He knows I'm here. The horrifying words barely leave Matt's mouth before panic erupts. Matt immediately tries fleeing the office, convinced the hooded figure already discovered the meeting. Phyllis attempts stopping him, desperate for answers, but Matt becomes hysterical, insisting they are both now in danger. Moments later, the office building security alarms suddenly activate. Darkness sweeps across parts of the floor as emergency lights flash red through the corridors. Phyllis's worst fears become reality. Someone is coming. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Genoa City, another emotional storyline begins unfolding involving Patty and Jack Abbott. After weeks of fear, emotional trauma, and guilt surrounding Diane's disappearance, Patty becomes increasingly dependent on Jack emotionally. Jack's renewed compassion and support after wrongly accusing her of kidnapping Diane create powerful emotional confusion inside Patty. Old feelings begin resurfacing intensely. Patty starts remembering the deep emotional connection she once believed existed between herself and Jack. Although years of heartbreak, psychological struggles, and tragedy complicated their history, part of Patty never fully stopped loving him. Tracy notices the emotional shift immediately. She becomes concerned seeing Patty emotionally vulnerable again, especially during such a chaotic and unstable time. Patty has spent weeks under enormous stress due to Matt's breakdowns, the hooded figure, and Diane's disappearance. Now her growing attachment to Jack seems dangerously intense. But Patty interprets Jack's kindness differently. In her fragile emotional state, she begins believing their renewed closeness may represent fate bringing them back together finally. Jack's protectiveness, concern, and constant support feel deeply personal to her. Meanwhile, Jack remains emotionally consumed by Diane's disappearance. Although grateful Patty is stabilizing somewhat after recent breakdowns, Jack views his support as friendship and compassion, not romance. Unfortunately, Patty's emotional interpretation continues growing stronger. Then comes the shocking moment. During an emotional private conversation, Patty suddenly confesses she wants to marry Jack. The confession leaves Jack completely stunned. Patty tearfully explains that recent events forced her to confront what truly matters emotionally. Facing fear, death, and emotional isolation reminded her how deeply she still loves Jack despite everything that happened between them. Jack is speechless. He gently tries explaining that his feelings for Patty are rooted in care and friendship, not romantic love. But Patty, emotionally overwhelmed, insists they belong together now more than ever. According to Patty, Diane's disappearance changed everything. She believes Jack needs someone loyal, honest, and emotionally devoted beside him, someone who truly understands pain and survival. The emotional intensity of Patty's confession deeply unsettles Jack. Though he wants to protect Patty from further emotional damage, he also realizes rejecting her too harshly could trigger another devastating psychological spiral. Meanwhile, Tracy grows increasingly worried after learning about Patty's marriage plans. She fears Patty is clinging emotionally to Jack as a way of coping with trauma and fear surrounding recent events. The emotional vulnerability reminds Tracy painfully of Patty's darkest periods in the past. Elsewhere, Chaos erupts fully inside the office building where Phyllis met Matt. Security systems fail completely. Someone remotely locks several exits. Matt becomes frantic, insisting the hooded figure never allows betrayal or loose ends to survive. Phyllis desperately tries calming him while simultaneously searching for a way out. Then they hear footsteps approaching slowly outside the office. Heavy, calm, deliberate. Matt nearly collapses emotionally. For the first time, Phyllis truly understands how terrified he has been all along. The office door handle suddenly moves. Both Phyllis and Matt freeze in horror. But before the intruder enters, backup generators finally restore partial power, triggering automatic security doors throughout the building. In the confusion, the approaching footsteps disappear again. Matt immediately escapes through a side exit before Phyllis can stop him. And once again, the truth slips away. Still, Matt leaves behind one terrifying clue during the chaos. A handwritten note shoved into Phyllis's hand moments before fleeing. Only 3 chilling words are written on the paper. Trust no one. As Phyllis stares at the warning, fear washes over her completely. Because deep down, she realizes Matt may have just confirmed her worst nightmare. The hooded figure's influence may reach far closer to everyone than anyone imagined. Phyllis stands frozen inside the darkened office long after Matt disappears into the night. Her hands tremble as she stares down at the handwritten warning he forced into her palm before escaping. Trust no one. The chilling message replays endlessly in her mind. At first, Phyllis assumes Matt simply meant the hooded figure had eyes everywhere. But the longer she thinks about his panic, the more disturbing the warning becomes. Matt did not seem afraid of strangers alone. He seemed terrified of everyone. Meanwhile, somewhere outside the building, Matt races through deserted streets in full panic mode. His breathing becomes erratic as he constantly checks over his shoulder, convinced the hooded figure is already hunting him. For the first time, Matt openly realizes he made a catastrophic mistake meeting Phyllis, and now he fears he may have signed his own death warrant. Back inside the office, Phyllis immediately contacts Nick despite knowing he will be furious. Nick rushes to the scene within minutes after hearing the panic in her voice. When he arrives, he finds Phyllis visibly shaken unlike anything he has seen before. This is not the reckless, angry Phyllis who spent weeks obsessing over theories and accusations. This is someone genuinely terrified. Nick demands answers immediately. Phyllis tells him everything. The secret meeting, Matt's emotional breakdown, the flickering lights, the approaching footsteps, and the horrifying claim that the hooded figure never allows betrayal. Nick is stunned, but one detail unsettles him more than anything else. Matt's fear looked real, not manipulative, not performative, real. That realization changes Nick's entire perspective about the situation. Meanwhile, Chance and Victor arrive shortly afterward after Nick quietly alerts them about the incident. Victor immediately explodes with anger upon learning Phyllis secretly met Matt alone despite recent attacks and threats. Victor accuses her of endangering everyone recklessly yet again. But this time, Phyllis fires back differently. Instead of screaming accusations or conspiracy theories, she quietly tells Victor that Matt is terrified of someone powerful enough to shut down buildings, manipulate investigations, and track movements almost instantly. And according to Phyllis, Matt believes nobody is safe anymore. The statement silences the room briefly. Even Victor struggles dismissing the fear in Phyllis's voice. Meanwhile, security teams inspect the office building carefully and uncover another disturbing discovery. Several surveillance systems inside the building were remotely disabled only minutes before Matt arrived. Someone knew about the meeting in advance. Chance immediately realizes the implications are horrifying. Either Matt was being tracked constantly, or someone close to the investigation leaked information again. Nick's expression darkens instantly at the possibility. The fear that the hooded figure may have someone embedded near the investigation becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. Meanwhile, Patty's emotional attachment to Jack intensifies dramatically after confessing her desire to marry him. Although Jack handled the situation gently, Patty cannot stop replaying the conversation in her head. In her emotionally fragile state, she focuses more on Jack's compassion than his hesitation. To Patty, Jack's kindness feels like proof their connection remains special and destined somehow. Tracy becomes deeply alarmed. She quietly confronts Jack about the situation, warning him that Patty's emotional vulnerability is becoming dangerous territory. According to Tracy, Patty is clinging to romantic fantasies as protection against the overwhelming fear and instability consuming her life. Jack agrees privately. The problem is that he genuinely cares about Patty and fears hurting her emotionally again. After everything Patty endured over the years, Jack hates the thought of causing another painful rejection. Still, he also knows allowing Patty's hopes to grow unchecked could become devastating later. Meanwhile, Patty begins making emotional plans for a future she believes may finally be possible. She starts speaking nostalgically about old memories with Jack, and even hints to Tracy that Diane's disappearance may represent a sign that life is giving her another chance at happiness. The comments deeply unsettle Tracy. Elsewhere, Jack remains emotionally tormented over Diane. The discovery that Diane was recently held at the abandoned property crushes him psychologically. Every passing hour without finding her safely increases his desperation. Kyle notices his father barely sleeping anymore. Jack becomes consumed by guilt over wasting precious time accusing Patty instead of focusing entirely on saving Diane. Now, with evidence suggesting the hooded figure moved Diane before the raid intentionally, Jack fears she may be running out of time. Meanwhile, Sharon quietly revisits the photograph of Matt and the hooded figure again. This time, she notices another tiny detail hidden in the background, a symbol partially visible on a nearby wall behind Matt. Though blurred, the mark seems strangely familiar. Sharon immediately contacts Chance. After enhanced analysis, investigators connect the symbol to an abandoned private security company once involved in covert surveillance operations years earlier. The company supposedly dissolved after scandal and corruption allegations, but some records tied to its former leadership mysteriously disappeared. Victor becomes deeply unsettled after hearing the connection, because he recognizes the company name immediately. Years ago, Victor indirectly crossed paths with individuals linked to those operations during a corporate conflict. The people involved were known for intimidation, psychological tactics, and making problems disappear quietly. Suddenly, Matt's terror makes horrifying sense. Meanwhile, Nick cannot shake the feeling that someone close to them may still be feeding information directly to the hooded figure. After the office incident, Nick starts privately questioning nearly everything around him. Who knew where Phyllis would meet Matt? Who leaked details about the abandoned property raid? How did the hooded figure consistently stay ahead? The paranoia begins spreading rapidly through everyone connected to the investigation. Even Sharon admits she no longer knows whom to trust completely. Meanwhile, Matt hides alone inside another abandoned location, emotionally unraveling further. He repeatedly checks doors and windows while muttering to himself about running out of time. Then his phone rings. No caller ID. Matt freezes. Slowly, he answers. The audience cannot hear the full conversation, but Matt's terrified reaction says everything. Tears fill his eyes as he apologizes repeatedly to whoever is speaking. Then he hears the chilling command. Bring Phyllis. The line disconnects. Matt stares at the phone in horror. Meanwhile, Phyllis begins reviewing every detail from the office meeting obsessively. One memory especially keeps bothering her. Matt looked shocked when she claimed to understand someone else controlled him. Almost relieved. as though he desperately wanted someone to finally believe him. That realization breaks something inside Phyllis emotionally. For weeks, everyone dismissed Matt either as a monster or a lunatic. But now Phyllis believes he may have been trapped psychologically long before everything spiraled into violence and terror. Still, she also knows Matt remains dangerous, and now he may be under direct orders again. Meanwhile, Patty's emotional fixation on Jack reaches another uncomfortable level. Late one evening, she surprises Jack with an intimate dinner setup filled with candles, old photographs, and romantic memories from their past. Jack immediately realizes Patty's feelings have grown far beyond a passing emotional attachment. The situation becomes heartbreaking. Patty tearfully tells Jack she believes they survived years of pain because they were always meant to find each other again eventually. She speaks about love, fate, and second chances with overwhelming emotional intensity. Jack gently tries grounding her in reality, but Patty grows increasingly emotional, insisting she knows Jack still cares deeply for her. When Jack hesitates responding directly, Patty interprets the silence as hope. The moment leaves Jack trapped emotionally between compassion and fear, because deep down he realizes Patty may not emotionally survive another devastating rejection right now. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Genoa City, another shocking event erupts. Chance discovers encrypted files hidden inside the disabled office security system from the night of Phyllis's meeting with Matt. After decoding part of the data, investigators uncover terrifying footage. The hooded figure was already inside the building before Phyllis arrived, watching, waiting, and most horrifying of all, the figure appeared to know exactly where every person inside the building would be before events unfolded. As the truth grows darker, Genoa City edges closer to total emotional collapse. Nick struggles with spreading paranoia. Sharon becomes haunted by the realization that powerful operatives may have manipulated Matt psychologically for months. Jack faces heartbreaking complications involving both Diane and Patty, and Phyllis slowly realizes her dangerous meeting with Matt may have triggered something catastrophic, because now the hooded figure is no longer simply hiding in the shadows. Now the game is becoming personal.